Hi, this is Eugenia Mitchell, host of At Home with the Mitchells. Thanks for listening to the following podcast on Public House Media.
Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Food for Thought podcast. I am your host, Kylie Thompson. So excited to be here with you for episode 7. I feel like after a little bit, I'm going to have to stop saying what episode it is because it's going to get annoying, and I feel like maybe after 10, I'll stop saying it. So if you're annoyed, it's almost over. 3 more episodes left. Okay, so this episode is pre-recorded. This intro obviously is not. I'm recording it. It is 5:44 p.m. on Sunday, June 7th, so the day before this episode comes out. This episode is supposed to be submitted by 8:30 p.m. in a couple of hours, which doesn't sound stressful maybe to you guys, but I am stressing the heck out. I usually don't do intros like this. I usually like to be, going down my list of announcements and stuff like that, which I will be doing. There are a couple things I want to address. Just a heads up, this episode's going to be a little bit longer. It's probably going to be the longest one I've done yet, but there's going to be a lot of great information. I'm really excited to get into Gia Dougherty's episode and just for you guys to hear about her social impact initiative and her work with the eating disorder awareness community, the recovery community, and yeah, she's really a gem. But my life the last 24 hours, the last 48 hours has been like an insane roller coaster. And with last week's episode being Radical Honesty, I just really want to keep that going. And I want you guys to know all of me. I want you to know, obviously, the part of me that is an eating disorder recovery advocate and, that passion. But I'm multifaceted, just like every other human being out there. And alright, I'm just going to go down the list of things, and it's going to sound complainy, but, I want you guys to just hear me out. Hopefully this has some sort of comedic relief to it at the end. If I spin it that way, I don't really know where this is going to go, but I'm just spitting right now. Let's rewind to yesterday. I was living my best life. I went out for the first time since February, just due to COVID and all that stuff. My girlfriend had VIP tickets for a club, which I've never been to a club ever in my entire life, and I was living, like I said, my best life. I was doing great, and we had fun. I woke up this morning just disgustingly hungover. I don't drink very much as it is, and I plan on doing kind of a couple episodes probably on, alcohol and my recovery and stuff like that, but long story short, I don't really drink that often, or I'll have, a drink with dinner. That's pretty common for me, but I don't, go out. The party scene, the club scene, the bar scene is not, where you find me. So, I went out. VIP tickets are, once in a lifetime. Let's go. Let's do it. Bottle service. Did not buy a single thing all night. Had so much fun. Loved having time with my girlfriends and hanging out and seeing people I haven't seen in literally 3 months, so that was great. Woke up this morning, insanely hungover, with a list of things to do that was from my head to my toes, and I'm 5'3", so it was a long list. And I get halfway through my list. I'm cleaning the apartment, I'm getting things ready for food for thought for the week, I'm just doing some general housekeeping, and then I decide to venture out into the world to finish my errands. I haven't gone grocery shopping in 4 weeks, so that was to-do number 1. My lovely angel baby of a boyfriend came with me because I was stressed and a little bit grumpy and hungover and annoying and just wanted his attention while we were at the grocery store. So we go to Aldi, which plug, we got literally probably a month's worth of groceries for $120, which is unheard of at any other grocery store. Plug for Aldi, they also just are the best company ever. As a vegetarian, they take good care of me and have a lot of options for me. Their produce is great, etc. But that's not the point. So we go to Aldi, we get our groceries. Thing number 2 on our list of things to do while we were outside of the apartment was to go to O'Reilly Auto Parts because my car check engine light has been on for about a year. I don't like addressing these things. I don't like taking care of these things. Car things just stress me out, and I like to pretend that they're not there and they're not happening. So, we're on our way to O'Reilly Auto Parts to finally fix what's going on in my car. My boyfriend, like I said, is an angel and knows how to fix it. And my car stalls in the middle of the street. A busy street. If you're from the Green Bay area, Oneida Street, literally one of the busiest, like, I was by Lambeau Field. So for even those of you guys who aren't, like, around here, it's a highly trafficked area. My car just stops. Check engine light comes on. It's stalling. It's like literally I'm holding the wheel. It's like shaking. In the middle of the road, guys. Like, it couldn't have happened in the Aldi parking lot. It couldn't have happened in the O'Reilly Auto parking lot. It couldn't have happened before I even left my apartment. Like, these are all better case scenarios than being stranded in the middle of the busiest street in Green Bay at like 3 p.m. Are you kidding me? My life is a joke, you guys. I seriously... So, I'm panicking. Like I said, car things just, like, stress me out because cars are expensive, repairs are expensive, maintenance is expensive, and, like, I'm a recent college graduate who is trying to become a podcaster and waitresses at night. Like, I've also been out of work for 3 months. So, yeah, just financially, I wasn't totally emotionally prepared to have this happen. And then, so I'm standing in the middle of Oneida Street with my hand, like, I'm pulling my hair out. My boyfriend's telling me to calm down. That doesn't bode well for me. And it's hot. I'm annoyed. I'm terrified because traffic and, like, people are honking and mad and, like, I don't know what to do. Then 2 police officers come by and help us. God bless them, because I was just an emotional wreck. So they helped my boyfriend push it off into a side street, the car, they directed traffic. Angels, all of them. Literally this part of the day, like, best case scenario, you know, like, this wouldn't have happened, but for what happened, just, like, the timing of everything was dope. And they give us a ride back to my boyfriend's car at our apartment, and he is now, okay, so it's 5:50. He is out trying to repair my car because my biggest stressor today was, like, making sure that this intro to the podcast was great and that I addressed all the things I wanted to. And I just obviously started freaking out because I care about this podcast and the listeners and meeting deadlines, and, like, 8:30's coming up. And yeah, he took care of the car. I'm here talking to you guys. But if this intro sounds a little bit crazy, that's why. I've had quite the day. I've had quite the couple of days. And this weekend started off dandy. I was great. And I've never had a case of the Sunday scaries like this before in my entire life. So that's where I'm at. I just wanted to address that and let you guys know a little bit about my life, because my life is not perfect, as I said in last week's episode. So I'm digging this radical honesty thing, giving you guys a little update on me before diving into the content, because I think that is just going to make our relationship a little bit stronger. And I want you guys to feel like you know me and that you love me, because I love all of you guys. And yeah, so sorry if that was boring. I don't know. I hope you enjoyed it though. So yes, now onto the real intro that I actually wrote down at 9 a.m. this morning and was supposed to record at 3 o'clock before my car decided to just ruin my life. But here we are. So thank you guys so much for your support of last week's episode. This theme of being radically honest and just communicating more with you guys about what I'm going through, whether it's recovery-wise or, you know, like what I just did. And just really working on being a good advocate while also, like, proving to you guys that I'm not perfect, because I never want to project that kind of an image ever, because it's literally the farthest thing from the truth. And just, like, the amount of appreciation and messages and love that I've gotten about episode 6, like, really warmed my heart. And I was really worried to release that episode. I was stressed, and I feel like you could tell in my voice I was, like, choking back tears and just trying really hard to get through it. And, like, I'm never that vulnerable ever in my life. So, like, just thank you for being accepting and loving of that, and for allowing this to be a safe space for me as well as for you guys. So yeah, that was really great. And I've been battling with how I wanted to address everything going on right now in the world in regard to the Black Lives Matter movement and the murder of George Floyd and police brutality in general. And I'm not going to say a lot, but I felt that it was necessary and very important for Food for Thought to be able to address that in a way. So I did write something down. I'm going to read it to you guys, and I hope that, again, this is taken with love, because this is a really important topic to me. And as someone that is dating a man of color and has, Black friends, and just, I indulge in Black culture every single day, as all of us do, and just this is a part of my life too, even though I'm not Black. And I think it's time for me, as an advocate and as someone that has this platform in the form of podcasts and social media and like the following that I have to say something. So if you just want to get to the content, you can fast forward probably like 2 to 3 minutes. I'm not going to talk on it very long. But yeah, so the Food for Thought podcast, first and foremost, believes that Black Lives Matter. And I didn't know until very recently that, like, just me silently thinking that, and me, pretty quietly just being not racist myself, and like silently having these beliefs, I thought that was good enough. But I'm now realizing that I have to be loudly anti-racist, not just silently not racist myself, if that makes any sense. And I just cannot believe that we are still having to protest and having to deal with these issues and like losing innocent lives due to just unnecessary violence. It has broken my heart in so many ways, and I live in a pretty big city for Wisconsin, and just seeing how everyone has come together to protest and to show their support for the Black Lives Matter movement, that's been really amazing to see. And outside of Green Bay, I mean, just worldwide, the amount of attention that this is getting is so great. And honestly, I feel bad for not doing any of this sooner and not becoming an advocate sooner, considering all the things I said before. I date a Black man. I have Black friends. I indulge in Black culture, all of these things. I just can't believe that I didn't think of any of this before, because as a white woman, I have so much privilege. That story I just told earlier about the police officers, if I was Black, I wonder how that would have gone, truly. And that was something I was thinking the whole time. Would those cops have helped me? Would they, what would the processes have been like? Would they have given me a ride in their cop car back to my apartment? Like, what? The whole time that was going on, I was thinking about this. And actually, while we were in the vehicle, I heard, like, over the intercoms, like, them talking about the protests and, like, just getting prepared to handle all of that. And I just really hoped from the bottom of my heart that any officers that are taking part in, like, managing the protests in my area, I hope that deep down they believe that Black Lives Matter too, because they do. And, like I said, I have so much privilege, and I can't sit silently anymore. I need to use this privilege for change and work towards a world of true equality where, no matter what race or gender or sexuality or whatever you are treated with dignity and respect and like your life matters. And for those of you who believe that all lives matter, to an extent I agree, but I saw a graphic on social media earlier this week that really resonated with me, because I was an All Lives Matter person for a couple of years, a long time ago, but I was in that mindset. I saw a graphic on Instagram that said, all lives won't matter until Black Lives Matter. And that resonated with me, because yes, all lives matter, but Black lives are mattering to people significantly less. And it is time for that to stop. And so, like I said, I'm not going to talk on it too much longer, but I'm putting a link in the podcast episode bio for it's blacklivesmatter.card.co, and you can check it out. You can sign petitions, you can find places to donate, all that good stuff, if you so choose. And I hope that you do. I hope that as a listener of this podcast, you believe in equality. And I'm not even going to get into healthcare and eating disorders specifically in the Black community yet. That's a podcast episode I was already planning on doing. But I just want to make sure that I do the research and I have the appropriate guests on and stuff like that prior to releasing anything. So I won't get into that right now, but just know that that's coming, and I'm really excited about it because I'm excited to educate myself as well as, you know, educate all of you. So yeah, that's all that I'm going to say on that. I promise I'm almost done with this intro, guys. I feel like I'm literally the worst person ever for doing this long of an intro. But here we go. Last couple things. Thank you so much for buying my merch. Keep doing that. You can find the link in any of my personal Instagram, social media bios, all that stuff. Buy the merch. It's quality. I'm obsessed with it. I wear it all the time, 24/7. And the people that have been buying it and showing me on social media, I'm not exaggerating when I say I cry literally at every picture. It's unreal to me that people want to wear my merch and support me in that way. So thank you. And okay, last thing I promise, guys, I'm really sorry. The Catch Up podcast is live. I know I talked about it last week. It was coming out on Monday. It's been out for 1 week now, and it's so awesome. It's a brand new way to listen to news. It's got good news at the end of it to give you guys a little bit of positivity at the end of the episode, because let's face it, the world right now is a pretty scary place, and I think that we all need to be able to find the good in every day. So we're just working to do that through the Catch Up podcast, which is an official publication of Public House Media, just like this podcast. A great company, a great podcast. Give it a listen. You can find the link again in any of my bios. But I'm going to stop rambling about other things because you guys want to get into this episode with Gia Dougherty. So not even going to do an intro for her because she speaks for herself and is truly the most amazing human being I've ever met. So without further ado, here's episode number 7 with Gia Dougherty. All right, I have Miss Des Moines 2020 Gia here with me for the second time this week. The previous recording I had unfortunately got lost, and she was gracious enough to come back and interview again. How are you today?
Good, how are you?
I'm good. So let's just get right into it, girl. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, I am Miss Greater Des Moines in the Miss America organization, and that is Miss Iowa local. So this is my second year going to Miss Iowa. This is about like my 6th or 7th year in pageantry. And so I advocate for eating disorder awareness and prevention. And we talked about this last time, and you were telling me about how you changed the name of your platform or social impact initiative too. My social impact used to be called Eat Better, Not Less. And so I go to local schools and I educate on what eating disorders really are, what those severities are. But this year I changed the name just because I felt like Eat Better, Not Less kind of sounded like I was focusing on diet culture. And a lot of the time people didn't even know that I was advocating for eating disorder awareness. So I changed the name to NEDA, which is actually the National Eating Disorder Association. But mine stands for Nurture, Educate, Destigmatize, and Advocate. And so I work with those 4 pillars and really just do all that I can to help destigmatize, the stigmas, unfortunately, that are tied with eating disorders now, and do what I can to help people who are still struggling.
Mm-hmm. And I feel like we'll both keep referencing our interview from before, but it was so good and I'm so mad that I lost it. So before last week when I interviewed Gia, she was talking about how she's been in the pageant world for a while and she's been a dancer and an athlete for the majority of her life. So Gia, why don't you just talk about that a little bit and how that incorporates with your social impact initiative?
Yeah, when I talk about kind of my story and my journey with being in treatment and how things were for me, I was in treatment for 2.5 years in an outpatient center. And so that for me was really helpful because I was able to live at home with my parents and still get treatment at the same time. But for me, it definitely derived from being a part of 2 athletics that were really focused on your physical image. I was looking at my physical image in a mirror half of the day, every single day at dance. And then I'd be at cross country practice running all day. So I didn't understand at 15, like what it meant to feel your body for how much activity you're doing. I just noticed, I can lose weight like really easily by doing these 2 things combined. And so I wasn't educated. I didn't understand, which is why I'm so passionate about working with it now. But I think the greatest thing that I've taken away from it, and again, we said this last time, is that I've developed this like really healthy relationship now with dance and exercise that I'm really proud of. And, right now with everything going on with COVID-19, we see some people within, these organizations who do advocate, totally understand what they're going for, but kind of shaming those who exercise at a time like right now. But it's important to know that sometimes exercise is a way that people care for their body, and that sometimes exercise doesn't always have to equate to weight loss, that some people just do it for their mental health and to take care of themselves. And so I really pride myself on that and share with a lot of people that I've had a really unhealthy relationship in the past with exercise and running and dancing, but now I have a very great relationship with that. So I definitely work a lot with promoting that as well.
Yeah. And I don't know if you felt this, but I felt this even today. I got up early and I've had a lot to do, but one of the first things I wanted to do was an at-home workout. And I've been struggling with within my recovery and my own mental health, just trying to decipher if I am doing an at-home workout because I feel like I quote unquote need to, or because I want to. Oh yeah. So have you been struggling with that too?
Yeah. I think in the sense of I feel like I have to be doing something, I have to keep myself busy, I'm in home doing nothing all day. But I think what I share a lot with students is balancing, trying to figure out, and I do this with myself now, I'm technically 7 years released from treatment, but 1 year fully recovered after a relapse. But I remind myself that okay, am I doing this because I genuinely want to, and this is my feel good, or I feel if I didn't work out today that I would panic. And I feel if I feel I didn't work out today and it would cause me to panic, then I'm not doing it for the right reasons. So I think I kind of check myself too. Okay, do I really want to do this? Or do I feel I'm just doing it because I have to,
Yeah. And I feel I've used my time with social distancing because like you said, nobody's doing anything. We're all just sitting at home. I've spent a lot of time trying to figure out why I feel this need to go to the gym or go for a walk or go for a bike ride and really dive deep into is this for my physical health or am I trying to convince myself that it is? So it's nice to know that other people are experiencing that too.
Yeah, no, I feel that.
Yeah. So what was it relapsing as being a title holder? I know that we talked about this a little bit before, but kind of if you want to dive deeper into that and your experience with that.
Yeah, last year I won Miss Pearl City shortly after I gave up my title as Miss Greater Des Moines. So I was actually Miss Greater Des Moines 2018. I won Miss Pearl City a month after. So I was Miss Pearl City 2019. Bless you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Which is a really cool thing that I think your state does. And I kind of wish my state would do that. I was talking my boyfriend's ear off about that last night. I was like, did you know that in Iowa, you can have the same title more than once? You just have to take the year off.
It's great. It's great if you build a great relationship with that board too. I mean, I came back and competed again. Like I said, after my relapse and just going to grad school and everything, I was I think I'm going to take some time off, but I decided to come back solely because of this board, because they're just the most amazing humans. So I love that we get to do that. I didn't know that every state couldn't do that.
Yeah.
You telling me that was the first time I've ever heard that.
And you saying that you could do that, I was okay, I'm moving. It would just give you I feel it would just give you so much more longevity in the program, because here it's kind of for someone like me that started when I was 17 and I plan, fingers crossed, on competing until I'm 25. I only have so many titles I could compete for, and being 23 and having 2 years left, I'm I'm kind of running out, which not only makes me feel old, and I've been around the block a bunch of times and I've done all these, it just, I don't know. I think it would be cool to do that. So this is Wisconsin board, if you're listening. Yes, but go, but go back to what you were saying with.
I was Miss Pearl City 2019, and I held that title for probably not even 3 months. I think I won in January and I resigned mid-March. It was for a lot of reasons, but I relapsed probably beginning of March, and I knew that it just wasn't right for me anymore. I said this to my parents, to my friends last year, that I felt last year was the first time that I knew that I could become the state title holder. That was my 6th year. I knew that I had all the tools necessary. I was ready for the position. I was graduating college, so it couldn't have been a better time in my life. But I wasn't mentally healthy enough to take on that role. I wasn't taking care of myself, and I didn't even believe myself when I was going to schools. I would tell kids, love your body, take care of your body, don't succumb to these pressures. And I was doing all of it. So I'm if I don't even believe myself, I cannot expect these kids to even believe what I'm saying because I don't. So I definitely needed to take that step back. And I'm really happy that I did because, I mean, it was the best decision that I've ever made for myself. And I got to give that position to another girl who ended up making top 5 at Miss Iowa. Like she was able to do so much more with it than I was ready to do last year. So I'm really happy that I took that time off because I think it just prepared me a lot more for this year. And now my social impact initiative is way more diverse. Like I'm able to connect and have empathy with a whole different group of people who suffer with this disease, who have relapsed, you know, that I wasn't able to before. And so I think that's a positive that I took away from it for sure.
Yeah. I feel like that, like almost everyone in the pageant system that has this as their platform or social impact initiative, I feel like they can probably really relate to that. I know that I can. And like when I won my first local in 2015, which was also the year I went to college. So I was experiencing like this whole new life and all these changes and I feel like people that have eating disorders, we don't like change. We don't like new things. We like routine. No. And it was just a time in my life where I was so anxious because everything was unknown. And on top of learning all of that school stuff, I had to, you know, my hometown title was 3 hours away. So I was driving home every other weekend at least, or and I was going into schools and saying, you know, I go through this, but I don't let it define me. I'm doing all these things to better my mental health. And at the time I just felt like it was such a lie. And I just remember, I mean, I wouldn't change my hometown title experience for anything. And I'm glad that I had it so young because it kind of like helped me see a direction for my future, which it had so many benefits to it. But at the same time, I think when it came to my mental health, it was like, I just felt like I was living a lie. And so I was taking it out on myself and almost going deeper into those disordered eating behaviors because I had so much guilt about not being recovered. So it's kind of weird how that worked, but like there were so many times where I'd be like, oh my gosh, I'm a liar for going into these schools and saying this when in reality, this is what I'm doing. So I think that it's really like credible to you for being able to take a break and take a step back because I know from experience, it's not something everyone would do. And I just feel like that would help focus on your mental health and focus on your recovery. And obviously you came back and you won another one and you're going to do great things in Miss Iowa. I already know. So I feel like that is, it's awesome that you did that.
Thanks. Yeah, it was hard, but I think the harder part was coming back now this year and like having to think, okay, do I want to be honest and tell people why I really left? Because there were so many people, you know, it's pageant gossip, I guess you could say, of like, oh, why did she leave? She didn't tell anyone. Like anyone that knew me knew, like anyone in my life knows how serious I take this because I'm so passionate about it. And everyone was shocked that I resigned. I think that when I posted like my announcement, I got like 30 text messages and phone calls that day because no one knew. And so I ended up making, in the Miss America organization, for the people that don't know, now with 2.0, you have a social impact pitch. Well, I made my pitch the fact that I had relapsed. And so that was kind of the way that I was like, okay, you know, if I'm going to get back into this, I'm going to be 100% like solely myself. And I'm going to be honest because last year I wasn't honest. I think you, especially having this platform, can feel this way, but I think a lot of women in this organization can attest to the fact that you feel like you always have to be like on all the time and you feel like you're kind of this public figure that can't do any wrong. And so I felt like I could never like own up to the fact that I sometimes still struggle with how I feel about myself. And this year I like moved way more into just being honest. Like, yes, I'm completely recovered in the sense of release from treatment, but I still have days that are really hard for me. But that doesn't make me any less of an advocate. I think in a sense, it makes me relate a lot more to the people that I advocate for. So this year I moved a lot more into like that honesty aspect of it, of just like realizing because I have days that aren't that great still, doesn't mean that I still am not good at what I do. You know what I mean? That was like a hard pill for me to swallow. I thought that because I struggle, I'm not good at this anymore. But that's, you know, that's just not true. It took me a long time to realize that too. It took me a year to actually accept that.
Yeah. And I feel like, I mean, like you said, being able to take a step back, especially in the pageant world where everyone expects you to look a certain way, act a certain way, do X, Y, and Z, like for you to be real. Like that's one thing that I love about this organization and kind of the shift that 2.0 has taken is like, there are girls that are like, it's not all glitz and glamour. It's it's hard work, it's mental health struggles, and it's like those things are what fuel our passions in the Miss America organization. Because I think before 2.0, people didn't really understand why we did these things. And so I don't know, I love that women like you are coming out and being honest about their own mental health journeys while in a crown and sash, because I think, I don't know, I just feel like there hasn't been a lot of transparency in that regard in the pageant world. So I think that's really cool. Yeah. Totally. Like when I started competing, I feel like I said this last time, but like I was the only person on that stage that talked about an eating disorder. Yeah. And in my time, like
same here.
Watching the program since I was just a little bitty thing, like I would go and I would see these girls talk about their community service work and stuff like that. And I never heard about it. And so when I decided to go into the pageant world, that was one thing I decided to do. I was like, I'm going to be like brutally honest. And if it's not accepted in the pageant world, then like, this isn't for me. I know I still want to go on and do this advocacy work, but luckily it was. And like, I don't know, I'm assuming that you've had good feedback from your state too. Just people are talking about it more. And I think that that's really important.
Yeah. I think when I first started, I was like new to Iowa. I didn't know anyone. I didn't know, what competition were like, or just what people were like in general. And I think I benefited from that just because I went in kind of not caring what anyone thought and just was like fully myself. Whereas like now this year and last year, I think, and you can probably relate to this, when you have a social impact that's revolved around body positivity in a sense and like not focusing on physical image, it seems to some people that it contradicts itself for someone who takes part in pageantry. And it's so hard getting out of that stigma because people assume that, okay, well, how can you advocate for eating disorder awareness when you used to compete in swimsuit or you compete in pageants? It has nothing to do with that. And it's really hard to like step out of that box that people think, that we're in. So I work a lot with that too, of like kind of destigmatizing that, yes, I can advocate for eating disorder awareness and I can still compete in something that people think is focused on physical image. But I agree. That's why I like 2.0, because it really shows that they're focusing on our passions, our education, our community service work. Like that's what the 4 pillars of this organization has always been. So I agree. I'm really happy with that shift. It was definitely hard to get used to going from 1.0 to 2.0, but that is like my favorite part about that shift for sure.
Yeah. And that actually leads right into my next question is, so obviously you competed in 1.0 with the swimsuit competition. How did that affect you in mental health recovery?
Yeah. Everyone has their own experience, like with swimsuit, and everyone's is valid because I think everyone's experience is like completely different. But for me, I had like the most positive experience. Miss Iowa 2018. Like that was the first time in my life that I lost weight without having an eating disorder. And like I look back at those pictures and like I don't look at myself and I'm like, oh, she looks so skinny, or like I look so happy. Like I looked healthy because I was truly taking care of my body because I knew I was advocating for something so much bigger than myself and I wanted to practice what I was preaching. So I was more like attentive to myself, like making sure I was taking care of my body, making sure I was fueling my body for what I was doing. So for me, swimsuit was a really rewarding experience. Like I had an amazing experience with swimsuit. And I said this last time, but I tell people this all the time, is that when you have a talent that, like I'm a dancer, that's like doing a 90-second sprint. I like physically train hard no matter what, because I have to. Like if I'm not prepared for that, my talent isn't going to go well. And even now people probably see me, they're like, why does she work out so hard still? I have to, because I have to be fit enough to do what my talent requires me to do. So, and I think we should take care of our body regardless. And that doesn't have anything to do with what the number on the scale is or, what you look like in clothes. It has to do with how you actually feel, how you're actually feeling mentally and physically your body. So definitely for me, I had a great experience, but I know a lot of girls who didn't, and I can completely understand why, you know what I mean?
Right.
And I know you said your experience, like, you look at, I think was it last year or the last year that you had 1.0, you said that like you look at those pictures and you were like ear to ear, just grin because you knew that you were like actually happy and like loved the way that you felt on stage.
And I was actually, as you were talking, I was thinking about like, I've kind of had both experiences, both positive and negative with swimsuit. Yeah. When I won my first local, that was 5 years ago. That made me feel really old. But I was at the heaviest weight of my life because I was in the process of recovering. And obviously when you recover from something like anorexia, you gain weight. Like it's just how it works. And so I wore like a high-waisted swimsuit, and I just remember I was looking at the pictures the other day as like getting ready to post some stuff, and my smile is so like blank. Like it's definitely like I'm on stage and I'm doing this because I have to, and I want to do this. I want to win this pageant, so I'm doing this. And I wore a high-waisted swimsuit for all but 1 year I competed, and I remember buying like a low-waisted swimsuit for competition was like, I panicked. I bought like 30 swimsuits, not exaggerating, in every color, cut, size, like everything. Whatever. Yeah, because I was like, this is huge. It was like, I don't think anyone was expecting me to do that. I think that they were kind of like, I was really open about it with people. I was super unhappy with how my stomach looked. I was like, I'm just going to put it in my little black high-waisted swimsuit bottoms and act like it's not there. And I settled on this like cobalt blue swimsuit that was the low rise. And the pictures of me wearing it, like, I don't know, I didn't expect to like them, but I did because I was standing there and I had like, it's so funny because I was hitting like the same pose as I was in the picture from 5 years ago, but my face was totally different. And it was just one of those things where I wasn't even looking at my body. I was looking at the way my face looked. And I was like, I never thought I would look like that in a swimsuit, as in like, so happy on a stage with like spotlights and hundreds of people. And I was like, oh, okay. It's like, wow, and I have the Anita symbol tattooed on my hip. So you could see that in the picture
so
too. Oh, really?
Yeah, I have it on my ribcage.
Oh my gosh. But yeah, like you could see that in the picture too. And I just think that picture,
I love that.
Yeah, it just like spoke volumes of like who I had become like in the organization and like what swimsuit had kind of done for me in that way. So I had negative and positive experiences, but I'm really glad that I got to end it in 2018, like on such a high note. And like,
I know, I agree.
Yeah, I feel like I'll show my freaking grandkids those pictures. I'll be like, look at what I did. Like, this is back in my day when we competed in swimsuit.
Swimsuit, I know. I look at those pictures too sometimes, and I agree. Like you can tell that I was just so happy. Like I was more proud of the fact that I did it because again, like I had never lost weight in my life without having an eating disorder. So that was the first for me. And I was so proud of the fact that I could share that with people. But now and I'm happy that we had this shift because I think at the end of the day, like how many times are we ever going to walk in a swimsuit at an appearance? Never. But how many times are we going to publicly speak and share our passions or talk about our social impact? That's all we're going to do. So, I mean, I think the intent was good and it's there. So I'm excited to see. I think it's continued to change since 2.0 started. I think there's been like a drastic change every year. So I think it's going to keep changing until like as an organization, we feel like it really represents everyone.
And I don't think I asked this to you last time, but I've just been thinking of new stuff while you've been talking. When you started competing with this social impact, how do you feel like people took it? Like whether it was judges or girls you were competing with or even communities you represented, did you have a hard time like getting into schools and talking about it, or were people a little bit more accepting of it?
People were very accepting of it. I think when it was called Eat Better, Not Less, and it's funny that you asked that, a lot more teachers were more like receptive of letting me come in because it sounded like I was advocating for proper nutrition. And since I've had the change, it was my first time ever actually having a teacher, which completely understand the reservation behind it, but worried about the topic being too serious for children. And so I take that as like a good learning opportunity just to tell them, I completely understand. I changed my teaching plan, I guess you can say, depending on the age group that I'm speaking to. But it's important that we have that conversation because it's avoiding that conversation that causes a problem because they feel like they can't talk to people about, sorry, there's a lawnmower in my backyard. I really,
no, it's okay.
Not having that conversation, not feeling comfortable enough that you can open up to someone about that is where the problem lies. And so that's like the first time that I definitely had a hard time, but overall, like I've had, I think more so my like friends and family at home. Like it's so funny. Even yesterday, one of my best friends growing up, his name's Brandon. Our parents went to high school together. he messaged me yesterday because he had a friend who was suffering from an eating disorder and actually wanted to put us in contact because he wanted to get her help, which is like, and it may sound selfish, but it's like one of like the most fulfilling moments in my social impact, because it's like what I'm doing is actually making a difference. Like I want to help people, but for him he said, he's like, it's so cool to see, like, he was actively friends with me and friends with me when I was in treatment and saw everything that I was going through in high school, and to see where I am now. I think for my friends and my family, it's like they've been on this journey with me to see that I've taken something that was kind of traumatizing in a sense and like really changed my life, but turned it into a positive. And now I help a lot of other people who struggled with it too, because I wish that I would have, at 15, I wish I could have talked to someone and like who was going through what I was going through, like to understand that I'm not the only one who had that mentality. Because at 15 I was terrified, because I was like, there's no one else in this planet who thinks the way I do. Like, why do I have this mindset? I really thought I was alone. So it's been really cool, I think, going on like the journey with my friends and my family. They've probably been like the most receptive to everything.
Yeah, that just like gave me little goosebumps. You probably can't see them, but like that's so, those friends and those family members that have been there and like seen you at your lowest lows and then can come back and see you at these like high highs and winning pageants and talking about this and making a difference in the world. And I kind of live by that same mindset. I have a quote that I love, and it's, be the woman that you needed when you were a girl. And like, I think about that all the time when I'm doing this. And like, I'm sure you've had these times too, where you're like, oh, why do I talk about this? Because it can be so mentally grueling and hard. And then I look back and like, especially when getting ready for the podcast, I've been like, why am I doing this? I don't want people to think that I want attention or I'm trying to like do this and that. And like, I just have to keep going back to like, if there had been something like this when I was 12, like, and I had stumbled across it for some reason and listened to it, I just feel like my entire life could have been totally different. And
You're making a huge difference. Like, I told you this last night, like this is huge for the eating disorder community, because I don't think that there's any podcast revolved around it in a positive light, where it's not only like education, because you have people on here who are really trained in this, I'm sure, and like speak about what the truths are behind it, but you also have people with their own testimonies and their own stories. Like, I completely agree. If when I was 15 and I had this, like, this probably would have changed my life. I don't think I shared this last time, but when I first started like kind of developing my eating disorder, I had a really close friend at that time, and she was like my best friend. We did everything together. We even danced together. But when it started getting worse, she was the one who saw it all. And my parents didn't really catch on, and none of my other friends caught on, but she did. And so I think out of fear, and at the time when I was in high school, like we didn't get along anymore after this. But now looking back, I see it as like two teenagers who had no idea what was going on, who were just lost and like trying to find help. But she didn't know what to do, and she started crying one day in class in front of all of her friends. And she told all of her friends, Gia has an eating disorder and I don't know what to do. And I was mortified, because I was like, now people know. Like, I was really good at hiding it around everyone besides her, because she was with me all day. And for me, it was pretty triggering, because that day it was like 8th period, and she told one of our best friends that I had an eating disorder in our math class. That was like our 8th period class. And he was like, it was like us three always together. And then class was over, like school was over. We went outside of the hallway, and I was really mad at her. And I was like, why are you telling anyone? Like, I'm okay. I don't have an eating disorder. Like, everything's fine. And she took a bag of chips, and I think she like did it out of like anger, but like frustration. And she like kind of like tossed them like over my head, like on me. And I think it was like, in a sense, her like trying to wake me up, like think about what you're doing. Like, I think she was so scared, but to me, I was so embarrassed. Like, I was like, okay, not only now does everyone know, but now we're making a scene, and now like people really know. And that summer I lost all my friends, because not even because they wouldn't talk to me. I was so embarrassed that everyone knew my secret that I like self-isolated. I had one friend, and to this day, he's like he's my best friend. His name is Jake, but he was there for me for all my doctor's appointments. Like, the entire time I was in treatment, that whole summer, I didn't have any friends because I was so embarrassed, but he stuck by my side that whole time. And when I came back to school that next year, like my sophomore year, that's when everyone really knew. So like when I started sophomore year, everyone knew. It was pretty clear. And so that was like really big for me. And I don't even know the last person that I told that story to. Like, I think you might be the first person I've ever told that story to other than my parents.
Mm-hmm.
And it was kind of big for me because that's why I focus so much on educating like kids on how to help your friends who are struggling, because it's scary, but the last thing that you want to do is use like kind of like a scare tactic to kind of like wake them up. You know what I mean? Like, if you're ever worried about someone, it's all done in private. You know what I mean? And I have no hard feelings towards her. She was like my closest friend. I think she was just scared. Like, we were 15. She had
people don't know how to handle things like that.
Yeah. We both had no idea how to help me. And I know that she just was trying to help me. She just had no idea what else to do. But at the time I was mortified, you know?
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you for sharing that with me. That, like, I mean, you've said so many things that have just like given me all of the feelings, and so many things that like
the feels.
Yes. And so many things that resonate with me too. And like, I didn't have anything really like that, but I was my high school sweetheart. We were together pretty much my entire high school time. And that was when I really, my eating disorder kind of started in like 6th or 7th grade, but it got really bad as I got into high school. And him and I mean, he spent a lot of time with me and noticed that like, I wasn't eating, and he told my mom, he told my friends, he did all of this stuff without consulting me first. And I just remember like that humiliated me. And we would sit in the cafeteria and he had, and like his family, I love them. Like they're wonderful people, but I just don't think like he would bring 2 lunches and straight up like try and feed me in public. And it like,
see, that's so hard.
Yeah, it humiliated me because at that point I didn't want to eat, because like, eating disorder aside, I was like, you're embarrassing me. I'm not going to sit here and have you like literally try and put food in my mouth. Like that's.
Yeah.
And so I think it's so important to do stuff like you're doing and tell people how to approach that, because I mean, he was a year older than me. So yeah, I was probably 15. He was 16. And like, you just don't know how to approach someone with those heavy topics. So having people like you go into schools.
It's so hard.
Yeah. And I just think, again, if there had been somebody there in our classrooms saying, these are the signs and symptoms.
Right.
If you think you're experiencing it, you know, here are your resources. And for those of you who might have a friend that you think is, here are your resources, here are your options. So I just think that is super, super important.
Thanks. Yeah, I think, and you might be able to relate to this too. Actually, I had a boyfriend all throughout high school who was like my high school sweetheart, who we were dating the entire time I was in treatment. And I mean, we were really young. He actually really had no idea. Like, I was really good at keeping it under wraps. But I think as like women, especially, I would say especially with like men too, like our weight is like something that like you don't ever talk about a woman's weight. Therefore, I think that's why we feel so guarded about talking about, at least for me, like I don't really open up to a lot of people like in my relationships about my eating disorder, not in any way because I'm ashamed, but it's a heavy topic. And I think once you tell people in your life that you've had an eating disorder, there's like a sense of like, if you forget to eat one day because you're just really busy, they kind of panic in a sense. Like, I've seen it happen. Like my boyfriend in college, like during Miss Iowa, I would forget to eat sometimes because I'd be traveling to school and then I'd have an appearance and then I have to go to class and then I'd have this. And there was a time where he was like, I'm worried. Like, are you sure you're okay? And it's like, yes, I'm fine. But I think once you share that with someone, there is that like kind of scary feeling of like, well, now they know. So are they going to feel like they always need to watch over me and that like they're always worried for me? It's like, I don't ever people should never worry, because I have been now in treatment twice, but we've learned these skills to care for ourselves. And if we need help, people should know that we'll always like reach out for that help. But when you like talked about like your high school sweetheart, for sure, it's definitely hard to like open up about this stuff in personal relationships, because these are the people that see you all day, every day. And so if that vulnerability and if things do happen again, like then they're going to have to be the one that has to be there. And it's a big task. I mean, being there for someone who has an eating disorder, it's not easy at all.
Right. And actually my current boyfriend right now, so he doesn't have social media like at all. And
that's awesome.
Yes. And I've been advocating for,
I love that.
I've been advocating for eating disorder awareness on social media since 2012, like before social media, like anybody knew how to navigate it or anything like that.
It really was a thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And I've gotten rid of a lot of the posts now just because they don't like fit my aesthetic or whatever on Instagram. But like,
me.
Yes. And just because, I mean, social media at that time was so weird and like, but
So
yeah,
cringe.
so yeah, I've been advocating for so long, and usually like my significant others have that access to that kind of stuff. And like, it's just so interesting to be in a relationship with someone that got to know me on my terms in regards to my eating disorder. Like, and
That's actually pretty cool.
Yeah. And it like, I don't know, sometimes I'll say something about like even this podcast process, like he's not super involved because he's not seeing the post, he's not seeing what I'm doing. So I'll say something and he'll just kind of, I don't know, it's like a whole different level of like respect and trust, because everything he knows, I've told him on my terms, and he didn't like find me on Instagram and be like, oh, she had this.
Wow.
Yeah. It's just been really cool to kind of like go through that totally new experience with him. And like, I just open up to him about stuff when I feel like it's necessary or like I need something, and it's just been really cool, because in relationships past that I've had like, I mean, okay, so when I used Tinder, like I linked it to my Instagram, and guys would go on and be almost intimidated because I was an advocate and I like had this following and I was doing these things. They were like, oh, so you're like, you just talk about your eating disorder on social media. And I was kind of branded as that.
Yeah.
Like now I'm with this guy that like kind of has no idea, and I think it's really cool.
That's
like,
awesome. I love that.
Yeah. And I don't know, we've talked about that a lot. Even like he started like taking pictures. He's a great Instagram boyfriend despite not having an Instagram. So like he takes great pictures, whatever. And I don't know, it's just cool to like, he has no idea about that part of my life. And I kind of really enjoy that, despite now I'm trying to get him an Instagram because I think he should have one. But
maybe it's time. Yeah. No, that's actually, I've never thought about it that way.
Yeah. It's
that's
just
actually really cool. Especially getting the opportunity to like share that on your own terms. Like I think, and my boyfriend now, like he kind of learned everything through my social media, but then like for me that was really helpful because it gave me that like, okay, so now he knows about it, so now I can like be open about it. But he's really amazing because sometimes when people like see that you're a pageant girl and you advocate for it, like you said, it's like intimidating, and some people think it's weird almost, but he has always been so supportive like since we met. And like I think it's just really awesome because where he works now in Muscatine, Iowa is where my Pearl City title represented. And so he actually like, he works with some of the buildings that are considered like the Pearl City, like it was a button factory. Nice. That's what Pearl City is. It was a button factory. So I represented a button factory, but he works with like some of those buildings. So it's really funny because having that support from someone who's new in your life is really amazing, because of that for me, automatically if someone is supportive and isn't intimidated, that builds trust immediately for me, because then I know I can be really open about it.
For sure.
So yeah, I think that's really cool. I think everyone has definitely different experiences, but I like the fact that I think it's cool that you kind of,
I love it.
I've never met anyone who doesn't have any social media nowadays. So that's kind of cool.
When I like thought he was cute and I tried to look him up on social media, nothing came up. I was like, okay, he's a serial killer. Like,
he's a psycho.
He has nothing. And even like, it's just weird. And I feel weird posting him. Like, I show him every post before I post it because I'm like asking consent. I'm like, I can't tag you in it and you won't see it. But like,
that is so funny.
It's been really weird, but I kind of like it. And for our like journey, I guess if you want to call it that, he just kind of learned more about my journey with an eating disorder and my passions and advocating for that through coming to pageants. I remember I was giving up my title as Miss Madison in January, and he came, and that was the first time he'd been to a pageant at all. And at the end of the night, it was so awesome. And at the end of the night, we were going to bed, and he was like, I didn't realize that like you did all that stuff. He's like, it's so interesting because a lot of people meet you as this, but I got to know you, and this is just like another thing that makes you cool. And that for me was like, really, it was really cool. I was just like, oh my gosh. I was like, you didn't want to date me because I was a pageant girl. You didn't, like, this was just something that you're learning we were almost dating a year at that point. Like, it was just really cool. After a year of being together, he was like, oh, she does this. Like, I don't know what he thought I was doing all the time on my phone, or like, what? Whatever. But yeah.
What I advocate for, all that stuff.
Yeah. It's been really cool. So
I love that. That's amazing.
Yeah. We got on a little bit of a tangent there, but I don't know. I like what this episode is turning into as opposed to what I liked all the stuff that you said before too. So maybe re-recording was a little blessing in disguise.
Yeah.
But I am going to let you go here pretty soon. Do you have any last little food for thought for our listeners?
I'm trying to remember what I said last time, because I was like, I think
what I last so good.
it recapped it pretty well. But I think it's because we kind of talked about it before. It's just like, if you're still struggling now, or like you even are like in our shoes and you're an advocate for it and you still struggle, it doesn't make you any like less of a person. It doesn't make you any worse at your job. I think we talked about that a lot now, but even a lot before. Having current struggles, I think, like you said, like can sometimes feel like we're a phony. You know what I mean? Like, we don't know if we're good at our job, but we really are. And so I was 23, like I finally realized that this is something that I had, but it's not who I am. And it definitely doesn't define who I am now. So I definitely pride myself that I'm proud that I still struggle, because I can openly say it and I can turn it into something healthy. And I think that's just like a really big takeaway, that it's completely okay to struggle. You know, we focus so much on like body positivity, and that's great. But I think what's like more realistic is just focusing on body acceptance and accepting where you are in life. And like, you've worked really hard to get where you are. And like for both of us, like I can even see, like I like stalked you on Instagram and like went through all of like your pageant journey too. And like, I can just tell through all of that, like you've worked really hard to get where you are today. And like, that's how I feel about myself, of like, our body's probably been through a lot. And so where we were 5 years ago, but to where we are now, it took a lot of hard work. And so accepting that and loving where we are right now, I think is just really important.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, you just speak so eloquently, and I love everything that you say. I keep trying to pick things to put in like little quotations for my Instagram grid, and I'm like, everything she's saying is gold, so I'm going to need like 6 of these. Okay. But yeah, thank you so much for coming on for a second time. I promise as soon as we log off, I'm saving this. It's going to work. But yeah, thank you so much. And I hope you'd be open to coming on the podcast again at a later date and doing some more episodes with me. Perfect. Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. Well, thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you. You too.
All right, everyone, that was episode number 7 of the Food for Thought podcast. I know that there were some technical difficulties towards the end of my session with Gia, but I hope that our message came through loud and clear to you guys, because it was so important. And yeah, I just hope you enjoyed this episode, because I love her. I'm obsessed with her, and I really have enjoyed recording with her. She also has a couple of projects out on her YouTube channel, and I'm going to link that in the bio as well for you guys. So yeah, check it out. I am a guest on her YouTube channel, which is really exciting. And yeah, thank you guys so much. Buy my merch, stand up for what you believe in, and just have a great freaking week. I love you guys so much. Bye.